Hi guys, hope you are doing great. I know you've been waiting for new stories today. Ask a Lawyer has 3 new ones for you. The first one is about OP's grieving father, whose girlfriend is jealous of the feelings to his deceased wife. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't be shy to leave a comment. My mom and dad was married for 35 years. 3 years ago, my mom was unexpectedly diagnosed with colon cancer and died tragically a month later. It was hard on the whole family. I still struggle with depression. But I would say it affected my dad the worst. He lost his best friend, soulmate, his lover. His whole world crashed down on him. My dad has moved on since. He's been dating this woman for about 2 years now. Last Christmas, my dad bought an engagement ring, got down on one knee, and proposed to her in front of the whole family. She turned him down because she said he was still in love with my mom. It bothers her that my dad still goes to cemetery to visit her every day after work. This past Saturday, the day before Easter, I took my kids to my dad's house to dye Easter eggs. It's been a family tradition ever since I can remember. Everything was going great, everyone was having a good time, and my dad just started bawling his eyes out. He just started missing my mom and was overwhelmed with his emotions. When my dad said that he was really missing my mom, his girlfriend got super pissy and stomped off upstairs to her bedroom. I went on Facebook to express my emotions. I went on a rant talking about how it's a shame she's jealous of a dead woman. I told her she needs to cut my dad some slack and maybe she could have a man that loves her like that. She unfriended me and had my dad call me and tell me it was not my place to say anything. But I feel like it is. I think OP should not have made it public. She shouldn't have posted it on social media. To be honest, I don't think it was OP's place to say anything. This is OP's personal thought and should stay personal. In my opinion, OP's father's relationship is not her business. I understand that she wants the best for him, but acting like that, she is definitely not helping. It sounds like OP's dad is looking for companionship, and OP's dad's girlfriend is looking for the sort of relationship OP's dad had with his wife. Let's go to the second story, guys. It's a long one, so listen till the end and hear the update and my insights. Enjoy! My grandma is an amazing person. She's 91, but sharp, healthy, and generally very pragmatic. When my parents split up when I was a baby, she actually lived with us for a while. She's always been like a mother to me. When both of my parents weren't there and I was 18, she gave me a room at her house, let me borrow her car until I got a job, let me use her cell phone, and would regularly make me meals. She is smart and wise and kind and just all around one of my favorite 3 people in the world, with my wife and daughter being the other 2. But she's got a blind spot when it comes to my dad. He's her youngest and he has done the most for her. She has gone through some financial issues and no one has helped her as much as him. We all do help out. One of my sisters mows her lawn. I deposit money into her account every month, etc. But Dad has done the most. To be fair, she has blind spots for one of my cousins and I too. She has only ever yelled at me once, and I deserved it. Was 18 and drank a 6-pack of beer, then puked on her carpet and passed out. My dad and I were once close, despite some very manipulative and controlling behavior on his part. He married Carrie, 63 female, when I was 13, and she was amazing. Just a genuinely good person. I cannot think of anything I can criticize her on. She took on 3 stepkids and, no matter what, always treated us extremely well. She treated my dad well. I had never seen my dad so happy as when he was with her. He was convinced she was his soulmate. Carrie is giving, funny, kind, absolutely beautiful, looks 40 still, and is very fit. And the best cook. Every single person in the family loves her. I remember being glad that my parents divorced so that Dad could meet Carrie. Well, a couple of years ago, he met Tina, 38 female. He began an affair and eventually moved out, telling Carrie that he just needed some time to think. I begged him to come clean with her and give her a divorce instead of leaving her wondering what the F is going on. He wouldn't, so I told her. And I told her that my siblings and I are here for her, always. We have kept in touch with her, and we still see her as our stepmom. My dad has continued to suck. Seemed to completely forget that my daughter exists. Failed to make his yearly trip up because of work, yet took a vacation at the same time with Tina. Followed shortly thereafter by another trip with her. Ignored my daughter's calls, forgot our birthdays, etc. I finally told him that as long as he's with Tina, He will not have a relationship with me. My sister talks to him still, but only superficially. As a side issue, this girl is very much part of one political party. He tends to be of the other party, and since being with her, I've heard quite a bit more misogynistic and racist BS that came straight from her. He actually said once, in complete seriousness, that white men have it the hardest in our country. My grandma knows about this, and she was very disappointed in my dad at first. But now she gets in arguments with my sister and me about how he's an adult, and we have to let him live his life, and we can't judge him. She keeps trying to get me to speak to him again. Martyr that he is, he will opine to her that his oldest son hates him. Poor him, yada yada, narcissist playbook yada. We will end up arguing, where I tell her my mental health has been better since cutting him off, and that he deeply hurt someone I love. Not to mention my daughter, who doesn't understand where the heck Grandpa disappeared to and why Grandpa won't answer her calls. I have explained this to my grandma over and over. My sister has explained it over and over. It never takes, and then she guilts me because she doesn't want to die with us still not talking. Yes, she's old and anything can happen, but she's exceptionally healthy and independent. It always ends up heated, and I hate it because I have never really argued with my grandma before. So she's coming up for 2 weeks for the holidays. I know it's going to come up, keeping in mind that this woman would give me the shirt off her back if I needed it. I need a good way to maneuver these talks. I don't want to be too firm or mean, but I cannot get into these conversations anymore. She's just so blind to his misdeeds. What do I do? I think that in this situation, OP can't change anything. OP's father is Grandma's son, and looks like she loves him unconditionally. I don't think that there is a way to change her opinion about that. And I think OP should stop trying. This is her blind spot. I doubt OP is going to be able to make her see it. Update. Well, I decided to try to use my sister's saying when it came up. She will say, "Grandma, I love you, but you're just objectively wrong." Except that with my sister, that usually ends the conversation. But it did not with me. My grandma and I have never fought in my entire life. This woman would do anything for me and has done so much, and I love her just about as much as you can love another person. But that night, we fought. We were both shouting, and my wife hid herself in her office so she wouldn't have to deal with it. She was essentially blaming my truly amazing stepmom for my dad cheating. It ended with her saying maybe she should just go home. So I yelled at her to go home. I then called my dad, who didn't answer, and left him a message telling him to get her home. Called my sister to vent. Sister talked me down, it took a while, and told me that our grandma is friggin' old and not as there as she once was, and I should talk to her instead of cutting at her. She said that even if I got grandma to agree with me, it would essentially be forcing a 91-year-old woman to admit to herself that her son is a piece of crap. Because of all the good she has done for me, I went and talked to her. We stayed up until 2 a.m., no shouting, and talked. I told her about some of the abusive things my dad did, and her responses were often, "Well, what did you do to deserve that?" Same for abusive stuff he did to my sister. We ended by saying we love each other, and we need to just avoid talking about my dad. Turns out, dear old dad has also convinced her that we no longer have family holidays because of me, because I'm punishing him. My family and I only fly over to visit for either Thanksgiving or Christmas, because 3 plane tickets around the holidays aren't cheap. Plus, there's coordinating time off. Plus, I really don't want to spend vacation time on visiting my hometown twice in 2 months. So last year, I was planning on coming for Christmas, but not Thanksgiving. That was the first time a family holiday didn't happen. And it's because my dad ditched the family to do some things with a client, aka screw his mistress. Since then, the family no longer does anything for the holidays, so I don't fly over. We spend both holidays now with my wife's family, who lives 2 hours away because nothing is going on in my hometown. Yet he convinced her that I caused it. He convinced her that me being no contact with him isn't for my mental health, but to punish him. He equated his relationship with his mistress to my relationship with my wife, and she bought it. I've concluded that, at her age, nothing is going to change. Her son could murder one of her other kids, and she would find a way to justify it. Just the day after I told her all the stuff he has done, she was crazy trying to buy him a nice Christmas gift and making sure it was perfect. I've just accepted that this is how she apparently is. But I feel completely different about her now. I feel like all my memories with her are tarnished. She was screaming at me in defense of my abuser. This is the same woman who cut contact with her own abusive mother. If you asked me a week ago who I think the best person in the world is, I would have said her. I really saw her as a mother. Now I can't. It's just not the same, and I'm very depressed about it. My wife has been supportive, but I almost feel like I lost another parent. My mom is dead, and obviously my dad and I are no contact. It's like this huge loss, yet she's still here until Thursday. We are getting along fine, cook together, joke together, etc. But I'm honestly glad I'm going back to work on Wednesday. Apologies for the wall of text in advance. I almost don't know where to begin and where to end. I'm hoping to gain some perspective and hopefully be able to share this post with my husband so that we can gain some perspective together. My husband and I are both Muslim. Our mom set us up. We met and liked each other. Islamically, you're not allowed to date. So about 5 weeks into knowing each other, we got married in the religious sense. We moved together in his parents' house 6 months later after having the wedding reception. He is a good man, very respected, and a great dad. He is attentive to most of my needs, very affectionate, and a great provider. Obviously, I do have some issues with him, otherwise I wouldn't be posting. But I just want to reiterate that aside from this one issue, there aren't very many other flaws. My husband is a big-time mama's boy. I have never met someone like this before. He calls her 4 to 5 times a day, at least, details his entire day to her while she does the same. His parents, while still married, are not close. It feels like to me they've become each other's surrogate spouses. I have no problem with him being close, to a reasonable degree, to his parents, but I feel like the third wheel in my marriage. A few examples of how his relationship with his mom have affected me. A week after getting married, his mom cried about how she felt I was immodestly dressed. I don't wear a hijab, and this was something I discussed with my husband before agreeing to get married. He understood my perspective at the time, but once his mom talked to him, he demanded I start wearing a hijab. I had hyperemesis when I got married and could barely tolerate certain smells. Unfortunately, his parents' house smelled strongly of spices that I can't handle without throwing up. While pregnant, I preferred to stay at my mom's house. His mom cried about it and felt ashamed because of what her friends might say. After countless arguments where one day he'd agree with me and another where he would agree with his mom, he eventually told me he wished he didn't have to have a baby with a woman like me. When I would come stay with him, I wasn't able to eat the Pakistani food that his mom would make. She cried about it and would come into the room and force me to eat her food. He would randomly become tearful, out of nowhere, and tell me about how his mom had a difficult life and how he wanted me and her to have a good relationship. Keep in mind, at this point, I had a decent relationship with her. I'm not sure what he wanted of me, perhaps for me to be best friends with her. These examples are from our first year of marriage. We never had a honeymoon phase because we were constantly fighting every few days. His mom would complain about something. He'd come to me angry about it. We'd fight, rinse and repeat. Eventually, we moved out and we're currently 4 hours away from his parents. His relationship with his mom is just as close. Throughout the 5 years we've been together, we have always argued about his mom. He has never said one word to her when she treats me poorly, but has called me a B, amongst other things, if he feels that I haven't treated her well. She knows every detail of his life. I feel like there's nothing that only I know about him. She offers her input on everything, and I strongly suspect that he will bring me her suggestions as though they are his own. I feel like she's able to run aspects of my own home from even 4 hours away. Our marriage has suffered a great deal, and no matter how many times he tells me things will change, they never do. I feel like I'm a cheap substitute for his mom. Whenever she's around, I feel devalued. As a result, I don't feel very affectionate or loving towards him. His argument is that we no longer live with her and our day-to-day life doesn't involve her. He is upset that I'm not affectionate, but I can't help it. I feel constantly resentful. It doesn't help that when she is around, drama always ensues, and he still takes her side no matter what. I have begged to have marriage counseling, which he is against. He thinks that we can fix things on our own, but we're not. And we are both getting resentful of each other. Him for feeling like he's an otherwise good husband, but is getting treated as though he was a terrible one. Me, for feeling like I have another woman in my marriage. Just a few months ago, he cursed me out to his mom on the phone about how terrible I am as a wife and how awful our marriage is, just because I didn't call to wish her for a religious holiday. I'm tired of this, and I don't know what to do. I've tried just sucking it up, but that just breeds more resentment. How do I become happy in my marriage? In my opinion, OP and her husband should definitely get cultural appropriate counseling. To get him there, OP should try to ask him what he thinks went wrong with his parents' marriage. Ask him why they don't depend on each other, why they aren't close. Ask him if he realizes that he has been parentified as a substitute husband for his mother. And ask him if their marriage is following the same path as his parents. How does he expect it to turn out any different? One of OP's trump cards is that mother-in-law is obviously afraid of negative public opinion. If things get bad, I think OP should go to her parents' house as needed and let it be known through the grapevine about the negative treatment she is receiving. And as a last resort, divorce. OP should not be afraid to do it. If she gave it her best shot and tried to fix it repeatedly, she did all she could do. There's no reason to suffer indefinitely.